Welcome back to Minecraft Music Theory. Today, we'll be covering scales. Scales are fundamental to playing and understanding music. They are an arrangement of a series of notes with ascending or descending pitches. There are many different scales used in music. Some of the more common ones you may have heard before are the major scale, the minor scale, the pentatonic scale, and the blues scale. We will start with the major scale. The major scale is the most fundamental scale in Western music. 99% of music comes from the major scale. Even songs which are in minor keys still originate from the major scale. This scale is made up of 7 notes. For simplicity, I will explain the C major scale in detail. The C major scale is made up of all the natural notes. These are C, D, E, F, G, A, and B, finishing on C. A very quick side note, the interval between two notes that are next to each other is known as a half step. If a note is skipped over, for example from going from C to D, then this is known as a whole step. I will explain intervals in more detail in the next video. In the previous video we learned that the notes B sharp and E sharp do not exist. Using this knowledge, we can figure out the distance between each note in the C major scale. We play C first, then skip C sharp, meaning the jump to D is a whole step. We then do the same to each E. There is no E sharp, so we jump a half step to F. From F we can skip over F sharp to reach G, and then do the same for A and B. There is no B sharp, so we return to C with a half step. This gives the pattern of the scale of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. By summating these jumps, we can also see that we've travelled 12 half steps to complete the scale. This is the pattern of the major scale and can be applied to any of the 12 notes to find a major scale starting on them. The notes in this scale are numbered from 1 to 7. For example, in the C major scale, the C is known as the first, the G is known as the 5th, and the B is known as the 7th. Another scale which is very similar in format to the major scale is the minor scale. To explain the minor scale, we will quickly look at an example. The A minor scale is made up of the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, finishing back on the A. Straight away, we can tell that it is made up of all the natural notes. C major is also made up of all the natural notes. So how can we have two different scales with the same notes? The answer comes in the explanation of a concept known as relative major and minor. Every major scale has a relative minor scale and vice versa. We can see that C major has a relative minor scale starting on A. In the C major scale, A is the 6th note of the scale. A major scale's relative minor is always on the 6th note. Applying this to other scales, we can see that the relative minor of A major is F sharp minor. If we were to carry on doing this, we would eventually go through all of the notes and loop back to C. Because the A minor scale contains the same notes as the C major scale, we can tell that a minor scale also has the same intervals as a major scale. They are arranged in the same order, but they start at a different point. These intervals are whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. This means that the minor scale is essentially the same as the major scale, just with the difference that it starts on a different note. The next scale we will look at is called the diminished scale. It is called the diminished scale because it contains a flattened 5th note. The structure of a diminished scale is very simple. It comes in 2 forms, whole half and half whole. The whole half diminished scale repeats the interval pattern of a whole step, then a half step. The half whole diminished scale repeats the opposite pattern of a half step, then a whole step. We can see that they are also the same, just starting on different notes. Something that makes the diminished scale unique is that it loops much faster than the major scale. If you were to play a diminished scale pattern, you could play the same pattern up or down a whole and half step, and it would be in the same key. There are scales other than the minor scale which originate from the major scale. One of these scales is the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is made up of 5 notes, all of which occur in the major scale. The pentatonic scale is an alteration of the minor scale, so it is easier to look at it in terms of the minor scale. There's a 2-note shortage in the pentatonic scale when compared to the minor scale because it does not contain the 2nd or 6th note. So it is made up of the notes 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 in the minor scale, finishing back at the 1. This is a very useful and simple scale which is commonly played in thousands of songs and is very common in bluesy playing on the guitar. By making an addition to the pentatonic scale, we can also play the blues scale. This scale is made up of the same notes as the pentatonic scale, but adds a note between the 4th and 5th note. This is written as a flattened 5th, so the notes of the blues scale are 1, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, and 7, finishing again on the 1. This flattened 5th also occurs in the diminished scale. This gives the blues scale a very dark quality when compared to the usual pentatonic scale. This scale is very common in blues and rock, and also has applications in jazz. There are 2 other scales that are modifications of the minor scale: the harmonic minor scale and the melodic minor scale. The harmonic minor scale is the same as the minor scale apart from its raised 7th note. This comes from classical music, where the 7th is usually seen as a leading note back to the 1st. In the minor scale, the whole step jump to the 1st is too far for the 7th to be an effective leading note, so composers raised it to close the gap. This scale is a very dark quality due to the large jump between the 6th and the 7th. It is commonly used in metal and Eastern music. This large jump also caused some issues for singers, which led to the development of another scale. The melodic minor scale is the same as the harmonic minor scale, except from the raised 6th. This closes the big jump between the 6th and the 7th and makes it easier to sing. This scale is only ever really used in jazz and is very rarely used outside of it. The harmonic minor scale sounds like this, and the melodic minor scale sounds like this. The last 2 basic scales we will cover in this video are the whole tone and chromatic scales. The whole tone scale is purely made up of whole step intervals. There are only 2 of these scales, one that starts on C and one that starts on C sharp. It is a very situational scale and again is only really present in jazz. The chromatic scale is arguably the simplest but also most unique scale in existence. There is only one chromatic scale. It can be played in any key and can start on any note. The chromatic scale simply contains all 12 notes. It can be seen in any genre of music. However, it is very rare to see someone playing just the chromatic scale for a prolonged period, unless of course they are playing jazz. The whole tone scale sounds like this, and the chromatic scale sounds like this. That covers all the basic scales that are useful to know for playing music. There are some very specific and interesting scales which will be covered later, but are not necessary at the moment. Understanding scales in depth is evidently reliant on an understanding of intervals, which will be covered in the next video. Try playing the major scale, then the minor scale, then use the information in this video to figure out how to play the pentatonic, blues, harmonic minor, melodic minor, whole tone and chromatic scales. Hopefully you can use these scales to play effectively with other musicians, and of course, thank you for watching this video.